Hello, everybody. This is Matt Avery. We're back for another installation of the RaceDay Scoring monthly update. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to be going through some updates to RaceDay Scoring that we've recently done. So it's been a little while since we've been doing these regular updates monthly. With COVID hitting, we kind of put this on pause for a little bit. But we did do a nice overview of updates that we put together during the COVID times in our fall cram session for RunSignup. So we do have a nice recording of updates that happened over the course of the past few months that we did at the end of August, and that's actually available. We have recordings and we have a screen, the slide deck for it as well if you wanted to get access to that. That's actually, if you go onto the blog, racedayscoring.blog, you can find all that info. So you go to the racedayscoring.blog and scroll to the bottom, there's a RaceDay Scoring refresher webinar recording post there. You can find all the slides along with the recording of it. It's a link to the YouTube of that. And we go through all the different things that we made some big improvements to, including open-ended timing updates, better participant data handling, and easier race setup, a few different things in a bunch of different areas. So if you have been out of touch for quite a while, I highly recommend going to this post and watching the session, as well as going through the slide deck on your own end, because we have been doing a whole lot of stuff to make RaceDay Scoring a really great option for you. So I won't go over all of those things today. I'll be going through stuff that we've done since September 1, basically. So let's get started. If you guys do have any questions, I can take them towards the end. I'm going to try and keep this pretty light and pretty quick, as it is a Timer Tip Tuesday. If you do have more involved questions, feel free to reach out to us on a one-on-one basis. More than happy to help you out if you have a specific question about RaceDay Scoring and how to use it best for your event. So let's get started. On the blog, I'll always have the release notes listed here. So with RaceDay Scoring, we do a pretty good job of keeping track of all of the updates that we make and putting them into this release notes area here. So if you miss something or if you upgrade from 2.1.23 to the most current version and it doesn't show you all the changes that happened, you can always go to racedayscoring.blog/release notes and find all the updates. So let's dive in. So this one, on September 4th, we added a pretty important feature that we've been sitting on for quite a while, just never got around to doing it, and it was a difficult one to do, unfortunately, but we now are sorting the non-finishers for results to the most number of completed segments and then the lowest cumulative time at the last segment. So prior to this, if you decided that you wanted to show in your reports non-finishers, so to do that in RaceDay Scoring, you would go into a report, click Actions and Edit, use the Filter section, and say I want to show non-finishers here. So prior to this update, if you were to do that, any people that were, have started a race, this is a big multi-segment race, but didn't finish yet, you see how right now it's kind of nice. It shows people with the most completed segments first and then less as you go down the list. It wasn't sorting these in any nice, reasonable way. So we now sort them as you would expect them to, and like the way that we did show it in Race Director. So if you're doing big multi-segment races, like this is a big 100-mile run, you should have better idea of what's going on for those folks who are in the DNF state. They are out on course, haven't finished quite yet. All right. I'm not going to go through all the bugs. I'm just going to go through the features. So moving on to September 10th, we no longer show non-finishers in the top 5 by gender dashboard leaderboards. So these on the dashboard, we always give you a nice quick and top 5 males and top 5 females for each event. You can switch these out and take a look at the top 5 males in this event or that event, just so you can have an easy way to see who's in the awards. So this is pretty nice, and the way it works is it actually looks at the report for the 50 mile and says, okay, give me the top 5. And for the 100 mile, it says, give me the top 5. So we noticed there's a weird thing that happened. If you didn't have any results loaded yet and everybody was a non-finisher, and you decided to show non-finishers in a report, it would actually list them here. So it was just kind of a strange thing that could happen if you had less than 5 finishers and you were showing non-finishers in a report. So we fixed that, so now this only shows finishers. So we've improved the add scored reads page, made it a little bit more standardized. The way that you can record scored reads manually is a few ways. You can access it just by clicking account and clicking add times up here. And when you do that, there's a nice new little bar here, whereas before it was a little bit messy and confusing, and it was hard to tell how to enter clock times. So by default, when you enter scored reads, you put in the time of day, so 12:07 p.m. If you want to, you can also use this enter clock times button. It used to be a very small text link in like a paragraph, like all of this information was in a paragraph, and there was a way in there to select enter clock times. So we've called that out a little bit better. So now you can go in here and say, okay, I'm going to be entering times based on the 100 mile start. So I'm going to say, let's like record times for 100 mile start, because you could have different start times for each event. You have to tell it which start time you're basing it on. And then we just do the math and figure out, okay, it's a difference of 3 hours or whatever it is. So this is just a way to say, I'm saying that these people started at 12 p.m. and they ran a 19-minute 5K. Well, it'll actually record it as 12:19, but it'll be a lot easier to enter if your start times aren't exactly 12. So just made that a little bit easier to understand and use, and add some more information here on exactly what goes on with scored reads when you enter them in. These are times that you know for sure are accurate, so they bypass any filtering. So if you wanted to consider the filtering, what I would recommend instead of using a scored read is adding a raw read, which is prior to filtering. So if for whatever reason you wanted to add a time that you wanted to say make sure was considered for a multiple occurrence race, maybe I would record that as a raw read instead of a scored read. But there's benefits and drawbacks to both. So the nice thing about the manually adding scored reads is just the ability to quickly do a bunch of different reads at once. This is a nice way to just do a manual recording. So I can type in 5 spacebar and it timestamps the time. If I do Alt 4, it blows in 4 reads at the exact same time. And you can go in and fill the bib numbers in later. So it kind of works as like a mini time machine. If you need to do a manual recording of times for a race, this is actually possible. So just good to know that it's out there and exists, and we're continuing to improve it. Okay. Next things, we've added a few new columns to reports. We've added the ability to include corral name in a column and the gun/corral start time of day. So what we do is if someone, let's say, missed, if you're using chip times for a race and they missed a chip start, how our logic works is it says, okay, are they a part of a corral that has a start time? Then it will go to that. Now, if they are a part of an event that doesn't have a corral, it would then go to the event start time. So we have this kind of layered approach. If you're doing a chip start, it would always try and consider the chip time first. If it's a corral start, it will then use the corral start time. If it's an event, and it'll go down to there. So basically, it's just a way of seeing, which start time to use for participants. It's all layered. So now you can include their intended start time of day from their corral or their event in reports. So if you wanted to show their like finish time of day and their start time of day and their intended start time of day. You can add all those fields into a report. This is especially useful for events, in this current climate where we have maybe, you're doing like 10 different corral starts or 50 or however many, and you have all these distinct times to start at, and it's hard to determine whether or not someone started in the right, corral or whatever, and you want to show all the data in a report so you can reference it in one spot. You can easily do this now just by going into a report, adding in the gun corral start time of day, or the corral name. So as a refresher, again, if you need to edit a report, just go into Actions, Edit, and click Add Columns. Pro tip, never try and scroll through this because there's too many things to add. If you just type in corral, you'll get the things you're looking for here. So you can just select that I want to add corral and I want to add the corral start time of day. You can also do the date if you wanted to show the date start time of day in case you're doing a multi-day event. You could do that. Now, if you wanted to reorder them, you can just expand the edit columns and move it around. So I can do this, show the corral over here, and so on and so forth. So that's a nice little feature, especially for events where you're doing, chip starts or corral starts, that kind of thing. Moving on. So these updates, we really just did a few bug fixes. We were kind of preparing our big update that we'll tell you about in a minute here, and we were trying to just do anything we could to clean up some lingering bugs that we had, and make sure that everything we were doing that we're going to introduce was very stable. So I did want to just take a quick pause here and tell you guys how our development process works. So what we do generally is we try to get out any releases that have like feature updates that are there's a good amount of code changed or things like that. We'll try and get them out early in the week. But if you see a release that goes out with just bug fixes, they're usually they're gonna fix more things than they break, essentially. These feature updates, sometimes they could cause something to get introduced, so we always try and do them early in the week. If we miss something, we'll be able to fix it before the weekend. So we'll never put something out on like a Thursday or a Friday that we are at all concerned about. So these bug fixes, they're only fixing more problems than they are causing. These feature updates, we do rigorous testing. We have a whole bunch of races that we run scenarios through, and we're constantly adding to that list because we find more and more examples of unique situations. So we do a rigorous testing process for these feature updates, but what I'm trying to get after is if you do see something come in on a Thursday or a Friday, an update come up, what I'd recommend is just take a look through and see if any of the bug fixes are in an area that you might use. So like if you're using top finishers by gun time and you want to make sure that that's working correctly, I would update it. It's not going to hurt you for sure. So yeah, it's just a little overview on how we do our releases. Again, big feature updates we always push out early in the week. If we need to and we know there's a bug, we're going to push it out even if it's late in the week. Now we wouldn't include like a big feature update in that late week release, but if we know there's a bug, we want to get it fixed before the weekend. So we recommend downloading that update if you see it and it's like only bug fixes. All right, so moving on, October 2nd, we had a small update, just some minor updates to the UI, and we added an option to import a bibchip cross-reference file that doesn't have a header. There's a certain chip system that always exports their bibchip cross-reference file without a header, and so now if you are importing a bibchip cross-reference file, which is right here, create bibchip auto assignment, oops, not create, setup, and if you import, you can just say no header record or yes header record, and that will just skip over that first one if you have no header record. Moving on, a few more little bug fixes. This is actually a pretty nice update. It gave you the a new warning message when you, if there is an issue publishing results. We found that it was generating an error internally, but it was never telling the user what was going on. So now if you see that this notifications goes red, and it tells you that there's something wrong, it's important to check it out. So there could be things in here like you've mapped a column that doesn't make sense, like you mapped first name to chip number when you're publishing results or something like that. It'll tell you in there, say, hey, it expected a time, but you gave it a name or something like that. So if you do see this go red, definitely check it out, see what's going on. It should give you the information you need to troubleshoot it. And if you need help, our support's always there to assist you with it. But it wasn't really telling the user that there was anything happening, so they'd only notice that there's something wrong once they looked at their results and they weren't there. So we should be doing a better job of, showing if there's something wrong. All right. Moving on, we noticed that it was requiring a response when you had a race set up with custom questions, and this one didn't have it, but if they had a custom question from RunSignup in here, and it was a, like, let's say, how'd you hear about our event or something like that, and you decided that you wanted to import that custom question, like you used this field to, say, how did you hear about our event? And if that question on RunSignup was a required response when they registered, it was actually requiring you to enter it in when you're scoring them. So if you had to go and change someone's name and they didn't answer it, you'd have to answer it for them. So we decided that's a little bit not the best thing, because you might not necessarily know what they were supposed to enter for that or respond for that. So we decided to just not require that anymore. You used to have to go to RunSignup, update the custom question response, so that it doesn't require it, and then go back and change it, but it was just too much. So we now no longer require a response there. So if you have something that you do need, you just have to make sure that you enter it in. We thought it was more of a cumbersome thing to require everything than it was to, you might miss a couple if you're, entering something in that's important to you locally. All right, next, we added a bunch of improvements to the age group setup. So this is a series of things that we've been meaning to update for quite a while, and just been ignoring it. Other higher priority things were happening. So we now, when you set up age groups, if you go in and do a range insert, this is how you can just, throw in like 20 age groups at once. You click range insert. We now have an insert upper and lower age groups option. So this will automatically append 1 to 19 and 80 to 99 on the front end and back end of these ages. So this is like what Race Director does, where it will automatically fill in ages, below the lowest age group and above the highest age group. So that should be very helpful. And it gives you a nice preview now broken down by gender. In addition to that, we also prevent like overlapping age groups and having a gap in age groups or having a max age less than the min age. We used to be very, very flexible about this. We used to let you say, I want to set up a female 1 to 20 and then, or 29, and then do a female 15 to 19. And now we say you can't do that because we have an overlapping age range. So we used to let you do that, but we found it is more confusing and not too many people need to have overlapping age groups. So we did remove that capability. We don't think many people are going to miss it, but yeah, that's no longer possible. It was just causing too many people problems when they were trying to add age groups and they ended up with an overlap. More often than not, it was just a mistake in their setup, so we just think it's better to call it out. All right, so I've also made it more clear when inserting an age group where it's located in the list by highlighting the entire row. You may have noticed that while I was doing it. But now when you click insert, that's how you can insert a new row. It will just automatically highlight that in gray. So again, if you do that here, it will just show you where it lands. And we still do sort things automatically. So it does jump around if you change the ages that you're working with after you inserted it. So that's a little confusing, but I always just recommend if you had you wanted to insert band between here, you can just go right there and do it this way instead of adding it here, going to the bottom and then adjusting the age and then putting it in. It's a lot easier, I think, to use this insert function and put it where you know you want it to be, right below the row you're working on. In addition to that, we also made it so if you have a very small screen, that little top toolbar is sticky. We've been doing that in a few different places. Also in the scored reads setup, in the scored reads recording area, it just sticks to the top here. So if you need to add times or look someone up really quick without scrolling all the way to the top again, you can do that very quickly and easily. So moving on to the big one, this one just got released last week. We added a whole bunch of features around race progress tracking. Excuse me. So this is a big update to how the whole system works, kind of. We added initially, and you can tell going through some of these updates, a lot of them were around like non-finishers, like how do we display non-finishers? We fixed a bunch of bugs related to those types of things, and it was all kind of leading up to this big update on race progress. So one of the big limitations of RaceDay Scoring prior to this update was that we didn't have anything like a drop field. We didn't have any way of indicating that someone was not going to finish the race ever. So the DNF field is like they haven't finished, but there is no differentiation between people who may finish and those who are not going to finish. So we added a new field in the participants setup here called drop. Drop means that person, they got a flat in their bike and decided they didn't want to fix it and they're going to drop out of the race. So we know they're not going to finish. So you can check drop and that means that they are out. So it's different from did not finish. Did not finish is basically when someone has maybe started the race or hasn't started the race, but we still anticipate they may finish. So they would be in progress essentially. I don't know if you could hear my doorbell just ring. Sorry about that. So that's really, really nice for things like triathlons and big events where you're going over the course of many checkpoints and you want to be able to see who dropped, who didn't drop, and determine who's still out in course and so on. In addition to that, in the last update, we started automatically setting and unsetting the did not start and did not finish fields, and we've kind of improved that. We were using a system called data actions, which in RaceDay Scoring is kind of an automated action that runs based on some other things that happen in the background, but it's not a very stable system. So we kind of beta tested it using that, and then we baked it in once we got it right. So now we have it, so it's working internally in our system and is automatically saying as soon as someone gets a start read, they are no longer a did not start participant. And as soon as they get a finish read, they're no longer a did not finish participant. So we have a bunch of logic that senses like, okay, did they get a start and not a finish? And we try and be smart about that to make sure that they are marked correctly. So we, again, made a bunch of improvements around this over what we had released in September, or August, actually, I'm sorry. So this is really working well now, and you should see that participants are automatically getting these set. We did notice that, I think it was Steve Farisi on the call, if you load in a race that you had built on a very old version, it would mark everybody, it would not mark everybody as did not start and did not finish when you loaded that race up, but as soon as you recalculated it, it would set those fields correctly. So if you do notice that you're in a race that hasn't had any runners go off yet, no chip times or anything, and there's like everybody is finished, it says, it's because it sees that everybody doesn't have a status flag set. So their did not start is unchecked, their did not finish is unchecked. So they look like a finisher, even if they don't have a chip time. So it's just kind of a weird thing if you notice that. If you run a recalculation, it will set those flags for you correctly. So we basically rerun this process whenever chip reads come in for someone. So in addition to that, what we now have is a way to view the overall status of someone very easily. So we did that by just saying, let's say you want to go look at the reads at Kendall Lake. And you see this person, Kelly, she's a finisher. This person, these are all finishers. I'm trying to see if I can find someone who's not a finisher, but it will show if they're in progress or if they're a finisher, or if they didn't start right there. So it's a really nice and slick way to, like Timothy O'Keefe, he's still in progress. So we're still waiting for him to finish. And that's because his status flag says, he did start, but he hasn't finished yet. So he's on course. He hasn't dropped out. He's not disqualified, and so on and so forth. So that's a really nice way just to get a quick, view of what's going on. If you're looking at your raw data and you're trying to figure out what's going on with someone, oh, this person hasn't finished yet, you can just click in and see. So we're trying to link more and more information to you and show it to you on a top level basis. So that's that. And then we have progress lists. So progress lists are all kind of based on these flags being set or unset. And we determine if you are a finisher, or if you are in progress, or if you haven't started, or if you dropped out. We put you into these buckets. So we now have this nice little race stats panel here. It will give you a overall race status with how many participants out of those registered with bib numbers assigned are currently in progress. So they're out in course still. We got 119 people out in course. Then we have 231 finishers. So you can also view, them drilled down by the event. And when you are go to the event level view, you can actually click and see, oh, I want to check out who is in progress in the 100 mile, and you'll be able to view a list of all of the people in the 100 mile who are still in progress. So in addition to that, you can also do a little full screen view, and this just gives you a nice overview of what's going on. You may want to leave this on here as things are kind of trickling in. As results are happening, these get updated in real time. Go to 80, 90, all the way up, and you want to try and fill up this, finishers bar on all of your events. So this is really nice, and it also gives you a quick and easy way to view, like, okay, how many non-starters did I have? You can get the list of those folks, things like that. You can also get access to who dropped out of a race. So in the back 50, there was one person who dropped out. It was Kyle. You can get that info really, really quick. So that's been a long time coming for us. We've been working on that for the past couple months, and I'm really excited to get it out there. Had a lot of people requesting stuff like this, so been really happy to ship it out. In addition to that, we just made some updates to this dashboard screen, made it a little bit easier to tell what's going on with the reads here. Just made it more clear, like that these ones over here are all the counts by location. These are the raw reads. Cleaned up the interface a little bit when you are looking at the breakdown counts. So you can always view the scored read accounts by event and by occurrence if you want to see like who hit it once, who hit it twice. Just made that a little bit easier to take in, and just made it scale up. So if it's you got a really, really big screen, they'll look really, really big. If you got a really, really small screen, they'll look pretty small. So trying to make room on here so you can actually see what's going on in the important areas and not in the not as important areas. So let's see, anything I'm missing? I don't think I'm missing anything. So yeah.
Steve asked if there's ever potential to have floating statistic panels that they can tear off and like move to different areas so they can see at all times.
We've talked about it. It might, it's definitely something we could do, but we don't have it like in the upcoming releases scheduled, but we've definitely talked about it. We have the ability to do similar type of things in a local kiosk where you can start up a RaceDay hub window that's like a results kiosk or things like that. But we're definitely looking into it. And it is definitely possible. So at this point, let's just take some questions. Steve had those too.
Yeah, I think you've covered everything at this point.
Yeah, so Lil's asking about updates on lap races. We have a bunch of work we have to do before we're able to support lap races. So we've been kind of backburnering that one for a while, I know. And it's because we have a big update to reports that we have to make. And the developer who is on that project has been, he's been working on RaceJoy stuff. So the RaceJoy has had a ton of interest lately with a virtual challenge. So that project has been on pause for most of COVID. So we have to do that in order to do what we want to do for the lap races. So that's going to come. And the big thing that comes with reporting updates is the ability to do things like I want to sort this report section by something other than chip or clock time. I want to sort it by alphabetical order, or I want to sort it by number of laps completed, for instance. So we have to get that work done. So it's coming, but we're waiting on getting some more time from those developers before we're able to really get started on it. But it's going to be one of the big things we work on over this winter for sure. XC, cross-country races we're probably going to have this winter or the spring. We'll have it ready for the fall for sure, but not this fall. Definitely not going to be something that happens. We are recommending race director for that at this point. Bill's asking, when is the next major release? So we'll do releases weekly or bi-weekly. I don't know if you have any major ones upcoming. We kind of just organically put things together, and sometimes we get a big project and that just comes together. And like this one, the race stats one, we had a few different people asking at once about, you know, being able to view better race progress. I want to be able to show non-starters easily or access them easily. And we were just thinking about it for a while and put them all into one big feature, but we don't have anything planned necessarily for an upcoming major release. All right, so we're bumping into 30 minutes now. So I just wanted to go over a few things before I sign off. So we do have a RaceJoy Challenge event webinar coming up this Thursday. So RaceJoy has recently released the ability to allow you to set up challenges. So challenges are accumulating mileage over multiple events or different things like that. So this is very exciting, very new for us. So we're going to be doing a kind of training session and feature overview for that, both on RaceJoy as well as on the RunSignup challenge software. So be sure to attend if you're at all interested. I highly recommend learning how to do this. If you're a timer, a lot of events are doing challenges and will probably continue to do challenges for the foreseeable future. So getting this skill set is very beneficial. And RaceJoy is the only GPS tracking software that I know of that does this. So it's really, really cool. So yeah, moving on, just again, if you guys need more race day scoring training, Chris does one-on-one sessions. I help out with support as well. If you do have questions about a specific race scenario you're working on currently, feel free to use the questions button in race day scoring. That sends it over to our support team. If you're having an issue on the weekend, call us. There's a number right here. If you, again, this is the best way just because we get a snapshot of what your race looks like when you sent it. If you're getting errors or you have a setup question, this is really, really nice for us because chances are if you call us and you're having a big problem, we'll probably ask you to send an export over anyways. So this is a good first step for sure if you're really having a problem. But we do always work weekends and we're very, very responsive in our support. So if you guys do any other questions, feel free to reach out. RaceDay@runsignup.com is our generic support inbox for race day scoring issues. And again, check out the blog, keep following it for any future updates. So unless there's anything else before I go, yeah, seems like we are all good. So thanks again. We're going to continue to do monthly updates going forward now. We're going to be putting more development effort back into race day scoring, which I'm super excited about. So we'll be in touch. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Take care, guys.